when we get to harvest time, this is my crush pad here. So all of the grapes are going to be coming in half-ton picking bins. And those tanks that sit outside right now, those are my fermentation tanks during harvest.
Okay.
So those move inside this building right here, and the upstairs portion is my fermentation room.
Yeah.
Wow.
So right now, it's not very exciting. This is just wintertime storage, but the bins against the wall there, those are our picking bins, and about 1,000 pounds of grapes will be in each one of those bins when we bring them in. They'll be mounted up. We really don't do a lot to the fruit. It's more what happens in the vineyard and our choices on picking the fruit versus any winemaking techniques. So we're very natural, very old world.
Okay.
The yeast that's present on the skins of the grape will take it through fermentation.
She told us already.
Exactly. So when the fruit comes in, literally all we do is we dump it into this hopper with this bin dumper attachment, and that has an Archimedes screw in there that pushes the grapes out and into our destemmer. And if I were to open that up, it's kind of stuck back in there at the moment, but it looks like a washing machine inside with paddles. And the paddles will knock off the individual grape berries from the stem. It'll kick the stems out the back and separate the stems from the juice, the skins, and the seeds. And then the juice, skins, and seeds will dump into those tanks. In 1 to 3 days, it starts fermenting on its own. By day 5 or 6, then we're sending that fermenting juice downstairs by gravity to ferment in the barrels. So we do half of our fermentation process I like to call our vineyard fermentation. That's the grapes, yeast coming in from the vineyard. Then we send it to barrel, and we've built up yeast and bacteria populations in the barrel, and that will push it into our house style. The way we get it downstairs is through this little hole in the floor, and you just pull the plug out and you can look down, and the barrels are 18 and a half feet below down there. So the free running juice from the tanks goes straight downstairs. The rest of it goes in our Euro press, and that's just a bladder press. It's a big bag on one side of the drum that fills with air and presses against the grapes, and there's a grating on the other side that allows the juice to escape, and then that goes downstairs as well. So our winery's on 3 different levels. Tasting room, offices, that's the only area that's really air conditioned or heated, and then all of this down here, we use night air to naturally cool it to keep the barrels at the right temperature.
Okay.
What are those?
So that Noisemaker, it's our power converter. So a lot of our equipment needs to run on 480 volts, and we only have a 220 coming up the hill, so that's what this is our...
480?
Yeah. So this is our really fancy lab.
Wow.
It's very basic. Oh, the all-important espresso machine.
Espresso machine.
Yeah, so I do basic sugar measurements, pH measurements, titratable acidity, and then free SO2 for our finished wines. And we can go downstairs and visit Sean. There's only 2 ways into the downstairs. This vertical door that you can lift off with the forklift and remove, and there's a straight shaft that drops down. So a specialized forklift downstairs can pick barrels up and set them on the ground up here.
Yes, I agree.
So we can't drive in down here, of course, and you'll notice the thickness of the door. It gets very, very hot in Paso in the summertime. Oh, it's open. But
Wow.
please make your way.
Wow. Nice smell, huh? Hi.
So Sean is moving our
Hi.
2015 vintage Chrysos, the same thing you had upstairs, just 1 year younger, back to barrel. He put it in tank. We blended into the barrels together and dosed with a little bit of SO2.
Sulfites, when you see contained sulfites, it's a stabilizer in the wine to help
That's okay?
preserve it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so we're just pumping back into barrel in preparation for bottling right now. Yeah. And you can see inside here as well. Very cool.
Everything is it? Is something bad?
Yeah, so we rack the wine off to tank. We rip the wine to check for SO2 levels, and then we adjusted SO2 levels up to about 25 parts per million. And now we're going back to barrel where we store our wine until we go to bottle. It'll go back to tank then.
Yeah, so 640 barrels live down here. Yeah, what he said, I didn't give you time. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
No, I said exactly 640 right now.
Yeah, and then if you look back, you can see how deep the stacks go. So there's 5 stacks of 8 as you look back there. And if you want to get the barrels out to work on them, it's kind of like playing chess or Tetris. You have to think about 10 steps ahead, because the more you put on the ground, the less room you have for the forklift to move around.
What is this?
So this is shorthand. Petite Syrah is the grape variety. 2018 is the vintage. This is the vineyard, St. Peter of Alcantara. The lot number, so the number of picks that we had in that given year, the date it went in the barrel, and then we also separate, so the free run juice that comes out of the tank, this is our free run. Then we scoop out the grape skins from the tank and we dump the skins in the press. We get free from press, so more liquid falls out naturally. Then we start the press cycle and we'll have light press and heavy press. So there's a LP barrel up here, free from press. This one, like light press, heavy press. So that we can tell, that way when we come back later and we taste through the barrels, we can include or exclude from the blend if we like. And Gus is the most important part.
Yeah. What capacity is here? How many?
640 total barrels. So gallons, so about 37,000 gallons.
Adjusted SO2 and back.
Like a headlight.
Yeah, it's my headlamp,
Very
so I can see. Because at this point is when it starts to really go fast.
Guys, you're such a baby.
Ah, you fill it up.
I'm so sorry for him. Yep.
Perfect. Do you want me to go into for clean or just back in onto the leads?
I'd say, how much is in there?
I'd say how much? Little chunk.
Yeah, I'll probably go back in on the leads, Sean. You might only get one.
One and maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Or you could.
Cred că e în al 10-lea an din care face vin Clay. Nu uita de acolo, sus. Aia se deschide. That's how you get in and out the barrels. I got some first. Wait, why are these sideways?
What?
Why are these sideways? Or
So
empty?
these are empty, yeah.
Okay.
That's how we store them, just so that it's easy to visually see. They're tilted, so we know, oh, those are empty barrels.
Okay.
And we need a lot more barrels for fermentation than we need for storage later on. When we send the juice down here, it's at its most active point. It's bubbling and boiling. So we only fill up the barrels about that high, and they'll overflow because they create a lot of foam. When they're really, when they're first really actively fermenting. And then later, 30 to 60 days later, we'll come back and we'll fill up the barrel.
And how long time do you storage them here?
They live down here for 3 years. So most of our wines, 30 to 34 months on our reds. White wines, we like to get 42 months in the barrel. And then some of the wines are non-vintage. They'll be down here 5, 6, 7 years. Like the Pentimento that you had upstairs.
Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome.
We have one more place
I've not
to
been
see.
videoed before.
Yes, you have. Don't lie.
Not this frequently.
This whole thing.
They never did a video?
Not like this.
No, we have one more special place to see upstairs.
Yep. It's all set up right now because John, our owner, is doing a library tasting this Sunday. Yeah, there's a crate in there.
Adds to the ambiance.
There are right around 8,000 bottles in here. And it goes all the way back to 1980. So Adelaide Cellars was his first baby, and he got partners that ended up buying the winery from him later on down the line. And so this whole wall here, these are his older wines, his personal collection. And one of the first things he did in this area is make sparkling wine. These are 1982 to 85, still in tirage, so they're on the yeast on the bottom of the bottle that continue to develop and change how it tastes. These have been disgorged, corked, and capped. Everything else is Le Cuvier wines in the rest of the library, and we'll open these for our guests and club members and do private tasting experiences down here, like you'll see that this is set up for.
I could live here. I just need a fireplace and some whiskey.
So if you would have to pick up a bottle here, which one would you take for a special occasion?
Oh my goodness. There's some really good Sangiovese in here, which we don't make anymore, from the early 2000s that I really like. Even the older Chardonnays, the later 80s and through the mid 90s are incredible. With the skin contact, those tannic acids allow them
And
to
how
live.
old are these wines then? Chardonnay?
Chardonnay goes all the way back to the early 80s. Cab Sauv, Chardonnay, Zinfandel, they go back the furthest. So, for instance, we have a 1981 cab in a
So
750.
the most valuable here in terms of time and processing?
What tastes best right now?
Yeah?
I like the mid-late 90s through the early 2000s right now. I think those are really tasting exceptional. A lot of them have many more years left in them.
Could you pick one bottle?
It's hard to pick one.
Too many.